Hi, and welcome to Chapel Hill Maker. I'm Rachel, and I love knitting and making here in beautiful Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I'm so happy that you could join me today. I have two announcements, a finished object, a work in progress, an acquisition, and my usual podcast recommendation and active news cycle avoidance. So I'm going to just jump right in. The first announcement that I have is my channel recently crossed 3,000 subscribers. Yay! So I wanted to just take a minute and mark that occasion by saying thank you so much to those of you who have been with me from the beginning or have joined me along the way. It has been so much fun getting to know you and having you come along for my nerdy knitting ride, and it's just been such a gift. So in order to mark the occasion, I am going to have a little giveaway. I'm going to give away three patterns from Ravelry of your choice. You just have to comment below with the pattern that you're working on, and actually, no, we'll say this again. The pattern that you would want to win, and include the word pattern in the comment. So that is, you're going to comment, you have to be subscribed and comment below the pattern that you would want to win from Ravelry, and use the word pattern in your comment. So yeah, have at it, go for it. So that is my first announcement. I'm going to circle back. Actually, I forgot to tell you where to find me. Instagram, Ravelry. I am Chapel Hill Maker, and I would love it if you would give me a follow there and we can keep talking in between episodes. I also wanted to take just a minute to reintroduce myself since there are so many new people here, which thrills me. Again, I am Rachel. I am a mom to 4 amazing young women, ages 16 to 24, and to 2 of my furry children, Sawyer and Poppy. Sawyer is an Australian Labradoodle, and you will definitely hear him barking in the background. And Poppy is a little 8-pound Havanese, who normally you hear her bells jingling in the background here, but she is hanging out with my daughter. And then I am also a wife to my college sweetheart, Andy. We are about to celebrate our 27th wedding anniversary this weekend. He's the one who made my Chapel Hill Maker sign, and he's super supportive of my knitting and my YouTube and all of it. So that's just a little bit about me. And I am a knitting instructor here in Chapel Hill and in the local area, and love sort of getting to meet and help fellow knitters here in the Triangle. So I have been knitting on and off probably for over 40 years, and it is just something I keep coming back to. I am just passionate about everything fiber related, and I think most of you are too. And that's why we have been on this journey together. So yeah, so I am just thrilled to have you. Thank you so much for joining me. That is my first announcement, a chance for you to get to know me a little bit better. And my second announcement, I think, is even more exciting. I am co-hosting with Brette from Knit for Life, Move More, Knit More meetup, and we're calling it an MKAL, Move and Knit Along. It's an opportunity to encourage each other to increase our knitting longevity through movement. And I know if you're anything like me, I always have movement goals, especially because knitting is such a sedentary hobby. I love to take a little sock with me out on a walk and, knit while I walk, but also I can lose track of time and just sit and knit for hours, which I know, I end up like a shrimp by the end. And so I got to know Brette through Instagram the way most of us meet people these days. And she and I both have a passion for knitting sustainability. And she is an accomplished knitter as well as a physical therapist. And so she has had amazing advice for me and for so many people out there. If you see her videos on Instagram and YouTube, I'll link to it here. And so we are hosting on Discord a meetup that's going to run, we're calling it the Summer Stitches and Strides MKAL, Move and Knit Along. We're going to host it on Discord, which don't let that scare you. Just follow the link in the show notes. It's basically another sort of communication app, and it's really user-friendly once you sign in. Use that link to go to our board, and the goal is really just to support and encourage each other, set our own goals. I know Brette's planning to walk more and get more steps in. Mine is to do more weight-bearing exercises and stretching. And we're just there to cheer you on and cheer each other on. So I really hope that you'll join us for the Summer Stitches and Stride MKAL. And it's going to run from Monday, July 27th through the end of summer. And we can't wait to see where it goes. There's going to be prizes and, you know, who knows? It's going to be super fun. I'm so happy to be hosting it with Brette. And I feel really, when she mentioned it to me, I was like, yes, sign me up. So here we are. I hope you'll join us. First, I'll go with what am I wearing? It's like I've never done this before. I know it's episode 23, but every single time feels like the first time. So today I am wearing the Love Letter Tank by Veronika Lindberg, who is Kuda Vakika on all platforms. She is a really accomplished knitwear designer. Her patterns are wonderful to follow. I knit this a few summers ago in Holst Garn Line in the color white. I think it's 01. And I love it. I love the cut of this. It covers my bra, so I don't feel like I'm popping out, but I like the shape that this gives me. Tanks, for me, sometimes I feel a little bit hit or miss. This is not an area that I sort of love, but for some reason I feel really comfortable in this one, and I think it is the way that this cuts in. It has this cool thick I-cord bind off on the sleeves and the collar, and it's just so potato chippy. It is like you just want to get through that chart and get through that chart and get through that chart. I think I knit this in like a week or two, and I would totally make it again. It's really comfortable, and you can throw this in the wash, and it's so easy to care for. So this is the Love Letter Tank by Veronika Lindberg. I have a finished object today too, which is very exciting. And I'll wear this on the episode before she releases it. This was a test knit for Ashley Sauder, and this is called the Summer Solstice Saddle Sweater. I think it's a lot of S's between my Summer Stitches and Stride and Summer Solstice Saddle Shoulder. It's a bit of a tongue twister, but yeah, it's all over texture, and it's got these 3 cables that run down the back. The middle one's a little chunkier, and this is knit out of, I chose to use Cumulus by Fyberspates, and it's a Surrey alpaca mix. It's a Surrey silk alpaca blend. Surrey alpaca silk blend, and it is as soft as you could possibly imagine. You hold it double, and I was really surprised by how much texture I got, even with that Surrey held double. It weighs like nothing. This whole pattern for me took 8 balls of yarn. It's really was a very affordable option. She gives you a bunch of different options for the pattern. It starts with right here with like a saddle, which is like a patch almost, and then you pick up from either side of the saddle as you knit the front and back, and then you join in the round. She gives you an option for short sleeves and long sleeves. I decided to split the difference and do 3/4 length. This sweater is really warm, and so I figured being here in North Carolina, I would get more use if it was 3/4. And she has short row shaping on the shoulders, optional, but it does give it a really nice, it sits really nicely at the sleeve cap. And I'm amazed that this is her first design. It just was so well written and really thoughtful design elements. I did knit the cropped version, but on me it ends up to be not that cropped because I'm pretty short. So my length is about, I normally have to shorten the body on most things that I knit, and so I just knit to the length that she called for the crop, and it hits me right below the waistline of my like medium waisted pants. So I can't wait to wear this in the fall and in the winter. I think the color is just delicious, and it's Ruby Red by Cumulus by Fyberspates, and the designer is Ashley Sauder. And I will wear this when this comes out, which is going to be in August sometime, and I think you'll really enjoy making it. It was amazing how quickly it knit up, and how just, again, you wanted to get to the next repeat and get to the next repeat. So that's kind of a theme here today. So, okay, so I'm knitting my work in progress that I'm going to share with you today. I have been working on others, but I haven't made a ton of progress because you will see I have been locked in on the Norma Blouse by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I shared the swatch of it last time in my WIP roundup video, and somehow that one just rose to the top. I do have like a little bit of a deadline in that if I end up going to Rhinebeck, that'll be our Rhinebeck sweater. So I wanted to just have that done and set aside. But I have a little bit of a tale of woe on my WIP, but don't worry, it has a happy ending, at least I think it will. So I cast it on. I did everything wrong that I sort of tell my students not to do. I did gauge swatch, which I actually did it the right way, but I did not read through the pattern, and I don't know how. I just didn't read the sizing correctly. I can't honestly tell you what I did, but I am normally in most patterns a size 3, and I think I just made the assumption that I was going to knit the size 3 even after looking at it. The metric system might have thrown me off, I don't know, but I cast it on, and I was doing all of the increasing before joining in the underarm for sleeves, and I was talking to Tori from Knitworthy Yarns, and she asked what size I was doing, and I told her a 3, and she sort of said, well, wait a minute, I'm doing the size 2, and we are close to the same size. So she's like, are you sure? I might be a little smaller than she is. And she's like, are you sure you're doing the right size? And I said, oh, let me take a look. And I looked, and sure enough, it was going to be pretty big on me if I had continued with the size 3 that I was working on, especially because my gauge tends to loosen up as I knit. And so that should have been it. I should have said, you're right, I'm going to start again. But again, here was my second mistake. Normally I tell my students if they think about a mistake more than twice, they should just go back and fix it. I thought about it probably 100 times and I'll just keep going. I decreased the stitches on the body and then started increasing on the sleeves to catch up to the sleeve number, and thinking that it was just going to work out fine. And so I kept going until I joined in the round under the arms, and then I tried it on. And as soon as I tried it on, I knew that my adjustments were made in vain, because this was my first attempt here. And I don't know if you can see, you should be able to see me behind this sweater. This would be how much ease I would have. So it was too big. And I went to Knit Group last week, told my friends I needed some, tough love, and I tried it on for them, and I could tell immediately when I saw their faces that this was not going to work. So now my underarm stitches have sort of pulled out, but just to give you an idea. It wasn't going to work. It was going to be way too big. And then also where it was separating for sleeves is almost to my elbow, halfway down my bicep. And so hopefully this didn't make noise on the microphone too much. But it just wasn't going to give me the outcome that I was hoping for. So while I was at Knit Group, I cut the yarn and just cast on again. And I actually ended up doing the size 1, knowing that my gauge was going to sort of loosen up as I went, and wanting only like 3 inches of positive ease maybe. So this is more than 3. So the good thing is that I started again and I just continued as if nothing had happened. I tried really hard not to beat myself up about it, not to dwell. I kept this. I'm going to end up needing this yarn, but I had enough to just sort of start again and start moving forward, which is, you know, all we can do. And here I am. This is, you see how holding this up is a lot more. It's still a good bit of ease, actually, even with the size 1, but a lot more in proportion to my size. This is a really cool construction. It's sort of I think a compound raglan maybe. You start flat, you knit a trapezoid in the back, and you pick up for shoulders, and you knit, you can see right here where you pick up. So you knit to here, and you follow the front, you know, you cast on for the neck, then you pick up the other side, and then you join the whole thing in the round right below the neck. And you do raglan increases just on the sleeves until it is time to increase for the body. On my size, it was, you know, not that many rows of body increases before you then went ahead and separated for the underarms under the sleeves. So it's a great project. I cannot put it down seriously. So let me tell you a little bit about the yarn and the pattern itself, because people have had some questions about it. I am knitting this in Purl Soho's Linen Quill, which for me is like a desert island yarn. Back in the day when I was growing up, our local radio station had like on Saturday nights or something, they would play, they called it Desert Island Discs, and they'd play a whole album start to finish. And that was always sort of one of those topics of conversation of like, what would yours be? Well, if we were going to talk about yarn, as far as a desert island yarn goes, Linen Quill is one of those. It sort of is this like magic yarn that it can meet a bunch of different gauges. It's a fingering weight, and I'm holding a double on here. It's 50% fine Highland wool, 35% alpaca, and 15% linen. 439 yards per 100 grams. So the yardage is great. I was interrupted, so I'm starting over, but Linen Quill. I find that the gauge tends to be really flexible. You could do anything from like fingering weight shawls to held single, almost up to like a light DK, heavy sport held single, and it seems to just fill in the spaces. It blooms really nicely when you knit with it. I don't know if you can see here. You can see where I blocked it. You can see that line right there under the first motif. And the stitches lay so nicely, and it has like a little bit of a halo to it, I think, from the alpaca. And so her pattern calls for fingering and mohair, and I didn't really want to do mohair. So I felt like this would give me that same halo feel to it, and without having to do that. This is also a super affordable yarn. It goes on sale frequently. I think right now there's 25% off all of their yarn. I don't know when that ends, but I think I got it for like $14 a skein. And so the colors I'm using for this are Oatmeal Heather. The green is, I think it's called Fresh Pickle. And the blue is cerulean, light cerulean blue. So I love this color combination. I think I shared on a previous episode. I was walking out of my house and I looked out, and the sky's not really blue right now, but I just saw like the Carolina blue sky and the green of the trees and actually like the gray of my driveway. And it was like this light bulb went off and I thought, those are going to be my Norma colors. And so that's what I ended up doing. So I'm really excited about this. The modifications that I have done so far is I did end up not doing like a plain row once the body increases started. I just increased every round because I was worried again about it coming too low on my arm so that it wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't be able to move freely. So that is the only modification I have made so far. I am thinking about steeking it and making it into a cardigan when I finish, but I'm not fully committed to that idea. I will say I took a picture from like her project picture and I put it into ChatGPT and I said, show me what this would look like if it were a cardigan. And I can put the picture here. It was like a pretty good rendering. I wouldn't, you know, you could tell it was AI, but it gave me enough of an idea to understand sort of what it was going to look like. And I did like it. So, yeah, so you may get more spontaneous steeking content here. We'll see. I did add 3 extra stitches on the front just in case. I figured that 3 stitches won't change the fit of it too much in the long run if I decide not to. And it will give me a little bit of wiggle room to add in a button band if I do decide it. So this is the Norma by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and I am knitting this in linen quill held double. I do have a link for the linen quill in my show notes. I am a Purl Soho affiliate. I wasn't paid to talk about it or to use it. I pay for my yarn, but I do get a small commission if you purchase through my link. So if you want to give it a try, now's a good time. It is on sale. So that is my main WIP. I have worked a little bit on the Kirsten shirt, but not enough to make it interesting to talk about. I am hoping to make some real progress on that. I think I'm going to take it when I travel next week and try to make some tracks on that. And then I have some plans though. So this might hijack my travel knitting plans, but we'll see. I am planning to knit the Waves dress by Ronja Hakalehto. She has a new book out by Laine Publishing called Unfolding Landscapes, and it is like everything Laine does. It's a stunner and really a beautifully photographed, lovely patterns, and this Waves dress just took my breath away. I follow Jamie the Happy Knitter on Instagram, and she like hacked a Sari Nordland tank top to turn it into a dress, and I really loved how it looked, and so she kind of inspired me to try dress knitting. So here is my swatch, and this is the rosewood color, and it's Holst Garn in their Coast based, which is a wool cotton blend, and it feels really nice. This is held double. It's a light fingering. It's a 19 stitch gauge that the pattern calls for, so it's quite loose for this yarn, and you see it really has a lot of give. So I'm like a little nervous about how it's going to hang on my lumps and bumps, but I'm going to trust the process. This top one is with a size 7 needle, and I did get gauge with that. So I'll hold that up close so you can see. It doesn't seem like too see-through. I mean, it's all see-through when you hold it next to the window, but you know, with skin behind it, it looks really okay. So I'm excited about that. I was happy to have gotten gauge, and I did order this cone of super soft. I couldn't decide which color I wanted to do it in. So if you have an opinion, this is the color Rosewood, and this is the color Stonehenge, which is more of like a tealy greeny blue, and this is the aptly named Rosewood. So I'm excited to work with this. I love a cone. I think they're so pretty just standing here. So even if I never knit with it, I would be happy I had it, and it'll probably end up hanging out up top there. But I'm looking forward to knitting this, starting this dress. I think it's going to be kind of a long-term WIP, which makes me nervous because if you saw my last episode, there are a lot of those. So, and I have frogged 2 of the projects that we talked about last time, and I'm considering frogging 1 more, which if I do, I'll talk more about it. But that brings me to kind of all of my knitting content for today. But I do have my active news cycle avoidance. I have 2 books and another Crafty Distraction and a podcast recommendation. So the books that I have been reading, one, meh. The other one I'm halfway through, but I'm really enjoying. So the first one I finished, it's called Lies and Weddings by Kwan, and he's the same author who wrote Crazy Rich Asians, which I did not read the book. I watched the movie. I loved the movie. It was super light and fun and great location, location porn to see all the opulence and all of that. This book ended up being more or less the same story as Crazy Rich Asians. I would love to hear from people of Asian descent what they think about these books and how they're portrayed and their families are portrayed. Do you see yourself in it? Do you not? As someone who is not Asian American, I can't speak to that, but I found it to be like they hit pretty hard on the stereotypes. So I'm curious how someone with more personal connection to it would feel. It was light. It was a good distraction. I finished it. I listened to it all the way through. Pretty well narrated, very predictable. Like from the beginning, you're like, oh, this is exactly what's going to happen, and that's exactly what happened. So if you need something that's kind of just predictable and reliable and entertaining, I recommend it. The other book I ended up downloading from Libby like completely by accident. I searched for what was available and it caught my attention. I had never heard of it before. And I think right now they're running like a unlimited copies, at least for my library of this book, so I didn't have to wait for it. And it's called I See You Called In Dead by John Kenney. Contrary to what the title sounds like, it is not a mystery. It is a guy who is a middle-aged obituary writer for like a AP style corporation, and had a rough night, a bad blind date, and got drunk and posted his own obituary. And so you could imagine that things didn't go great at work after that, and he sort of is left to reevaluate his whole life. And so that's about what I'm up to. I still have a lot more to find out what's going to happen, but it seems to me like he's sort of going to go on this journey to figure out what his life is about and what it means and who he is and all of that. So I love the writing style. It's very funny, very tongue-in-cheek. The main character is like awkward in the best way. He sort of speaks without thinking and gets himself in trouble, but you can't help but like him. He's really likable. So that I will report back on that, but it's called I See You Called In Dead by John Kenney. And then as far as crafty distractions go, I have for a long time wanted to learn how to sew. It has always been something that intimidated me. I quilted a little bit in my 20s and really enjoyed it. I made some beautiful blankets, but never really ventured beyond that. And I didn't make quilts that were super complex. And so that's always kind of been something that I've wanted to learn how to do. So I think it was around May, Sew Liberated, which is a small pattern company, of hinterland dress fame, which is actually based out of Durham, North Carolina, which is the next town over, have a whole series of online courses. And Alicia Edmiston from Edmiston Creations recommended the courses to me. And so I just jumped in with both feet, and during their 20% off sale, I ordered their whole catalog of courses, and it comes with patterns. And so I just finished the introduction, and I'm learning the next module, which I'm waiting for the patterns to show up at my house, which should be any day. The next module is I'm going to learn how to sew pajamas. So I am hoping that in the not too distant future, I'm going to be able to share those here with you. I'm very excited. And I'm looking forward to really learning sort of the principles of sewing and how to do it properly as best I can, because that's always been what I'm always just afraid to try something. I've made a couple things here and there. I've had a couple pretty big fails. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to sewing that. Or a few other patterns out there that I sort of have on my bucket list. And hopefully will be another fun fiber related adventure. So yeah, the courses are great though. If you're in my shoe, if you're in my boat and you're wanting to learn, so far they're really fun to watch. They're short, they're broken up into short bites and very, very approachable. And then the last is my podcast recommendation. I talked a little bit at the beginning about our joint initiative with Brette from Knit for Life, and I just wanted to take a second and recommend her podcast. She gives so many good suggestions on stretching and moving, and she really is an expert as a physical therapist. She talks to you as if she's talking to one of her clients, and it always comes with kindness and respect, and she kind of meets you where you are. And she also is a really accomplished maker, and so you get to see her beautiful projects as well. So definitely go and give her a watch. She's just lovely, and I think you'll like her. I wouldn't be partnering with her on the summer Stitches and Strides MKAL if I didn't think she was wonderful, and I think you will too. So I think that brings me to the end of this episode. I'm so happy you could join me today. I, as always, am so grateful for the commenting, the liking, the subscribing, the engaging, the entering the giveaway, and for all of the wonderful ings. Thank you so much for joining me today. Bye.